So, I've been on sort of an Ace Combat journey. Would you believe that Ace Combat 7 was my first? Since then, I've gone back to the older games, and recently I set my sights on Ace Combat 2, a very well-regarded sequel to the hit Air Combat. The very first game in the series, if you didn't know. I'll get to gameplay soon, but you know what the most interesting part of this game is to me? It really establishes Strangereal as a world. Now I know that Air Combat technically does take place in Strangereal, but it doesn't really explain where it is. And to be fair, Ace Combat 2 doesn't say much either. Rebel forces staged a coup d'etat in some zip code you've never heard of, is all you get at the beginning. But as you progress through the game, you'll start seeing some familiar places, at least if you've played the PS2 games and AC7. The continent of Uja is where everything happens, and locations are named that pretty much stay constant for the rest of the series. The Tyler Islands, Gunther Bay, Cape Rainy, Faith Park, and more. No nations or organizations are named besides your own squadron, Scarface. But I think it's pretty neat that Namco and Project Aces stuck with the nascent world they created. It feels like they had a plan for Strangereal from the beginning. Anyway, the general setup is that some coup happened while the presidents were out at the store getting milk and cigarettes, and nobody can handle it except for Special Tactical Fighter Squadron Scarface. So, just like Air Combat before it, you're the only mute psychopath pilot capable of clearing out these suspiciously well-armed and unnamed rebels. And/or terrorists, they kind of are vague about it. Missions start, like every other AC game, with a briefing. Briefings in AC2 are particularly funny because it sounds like they grabbed the first Texan foreigner they found on the streets of Tokyo and gave him a script. And boy, does he sound bored. Just listen to this.
A coup d'etat broke out in the military corps' general area code NAP 2700. Escorting our attack operation. Emergency. Target. The enemy's giant submarine.
Once you're done with the briefing, it's mission time. Select a plane, and it's time to rock and roll. If you've played any Ace Combat before, you'll know how this works. Fly around, shoot down the enemy, get tinnitus from the lock-on tone, hit ground targets. Most missions are some form of destroy all targets, but sometimes you'll get something different. Series classics like Fly Through Ravine and Escort Things make appearances, though at the time they weren't classics yet. There's even a couple of branching paths. Halfway through the campaign, you can choose one or the other, and they're completely different missions. On top of that, there's a secret ending, but I'll get to that later. The gameplay itself should also be very familiar. If you know what's good for you, and you're on expert controls, you'll have full control over pitch, yaw, and roll. It's fascinating how this worked on an OG PlayStation controller, by the way, but chances are anyone playing AC2 today will be using a modern controller. Or even a flight stick if you're some kind of masochist. The only weapons you have are missiles and the gun, with slight differences in attack power between ground pounders and fighters. Pretty straightforward. Your progression through the game will be measured by unlocking new aircraft, which you buy using the credit payout for missions. A more capable jet means better maneuverability and sometimes even faster missile reloads or just more missiles available. Like every other Ace Combat, make no mistake, this is an arcade game. Planes feel just weighty enough to have a sense of realism. One thing in particular that really irritates me, however, is that once you reach a high enough altitude to be above the clouds, you have to go full afterburner constantly, or you'll stall right out of the sky. There's one mission in particular that features this as its gimmick, and I think it's the worst mission in the game. You'll constantly overshoot your targets and stall, have to shoot right back up, stall again trying to reach a new target, rinse and repeat. It's not great. But thankfully, it only really happens that one time. Wingmen make an appearance here. You can tell them what to focus on, and it changes what plane they take out. You've got a choice between Slash and Edge. Edge totally isn't Kei Nagase, by the way, I promise. That's Belkin propaganda. And your wingmen do actually follow your orders and even shoot down bandits. However, you gotta pay them at the end of the mission, and that cuts into your own pay. I never found this to be a big deal personally, but if you're just hitting the priority mission targets and nothing else, hiring wingmen might become an issue. Another critical addition to AC2 that's still present in modern Ace Combat is the enemy ace. Most missions will have one. Sometimes it's not just a single ace, but in a squadron instead. Shooting these goobers down gets you a fancy medal representing them, and you can spend the rest of your day staring at it in the collection menu. The aces that really matter, though, are the ZOE planes. It isn't explained here what ZOE means. That gets revealed in 2011 with the release of the Aces at War book, best as I can tell. But shooting all of these planes down unlocks the secret ending missions. And the secret ending missions, well, they're extra missions, huh? There are no crazy super weapons, but you do get to attack a Diet Alicorn and shoot down a cruise missile. And that's followed up with Zero Sugar Megalith. Perhaps you've noticed that there are a lot of ideas established here that Project Aces like to recycle. I should mention the music in this game because why wouldn't I? I love this soundtrack. It's some real Top Gun shit, just enough 90s cheese balanced with calmer tunes. You've been hearing it this entire video, I know how I'm going to edit this, you know what I mean. While I love the orchestral nature of AC7, the mid-90s synth sampling and soaring guitars of AC2 lights a fire in my very soul. Ace Combat 2 is a video game-ass video game. The whole thing can be done in a couple of hours, it's easy to emulate, the music is killer, it feels good to play. Honestly, I think it's aged very well. AC2 is highly regarded in the community for all of these reasons and more. Now that we're past the Game Awards and Bamco didn't announce anything regarding Ace Combat 8, do yourself a favor and give AC2 a play or revisit it if you've played it before. I see the community going full brain rot not having any new content, so now's as good a time as ever to check out the old games again. I'm Tom, I make videos about things I like, subscribe and all that other junk. Thank you for watching.